Today. My name is Sean Gardner. I'm the sales manager here at Untangle, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. We know we have several international attendees as well, so we appreciate you taking the time out of your evening as well. And this, for all intents and purposes, this webinar is going to be recorded and uploaded to our website later on, but also those that have registered for the webinar are going to receive a recorded version of this within 24 hours. And we'll be sending that out to the registration list. So we appreciate your attendance and joining us today. And let's get down to business. We'll be talking about blocking web access and some of the different features that Untangle has in order to be able to do that. A couple of housekeeping items. On the right-hand side, we have Untangle staff members going to be answering questions throughout the webinar. And if you're having any problems hearing, certainly use that to adjust the sound. We tried to make sure that the sound on our end is well balanced for you. But also, we're going to take this fairly quickly because we have a lot to cover. But we certainly encourage you to ask questions through that question and answer panel to get those answered along the way. And then anything that we are not able to get answered, please send those questions to us if we don't get those answered to sales@untangle.com. And we'll be able to help you after the fact, after the webinar is over. On the agenda today, we're going to be talking about some of the challenges that face our users today and networks that are at large. We're also going to be kind of covering off the Untangle web filtering breakdown and what we have to offer and some of the features that Untangle brings to bear in your ability to control web access and who can do what. We'll also be giving a short demonstration of Untangle and what the administrative interface looks like, and where you install Untangle, and then we'll wrap that up at the end. As far as the users on a network, as well as the network administration folks, they have different goals and things in mind, but we definitely want to keep users safe, keep workers and users focused on the basically tasks that they have at hand, as well as the network administrators want to make sure that the network policy that's been approved by management is enforced. We also, a lot of people don't really think about it, but there's a lot of liability. If you're having users that are downloading illegal content, then that potentially puts the business or organization at risk for a lawsuit, whether it be a sexual harassment lawsuit or whether it be a piracy lawsuit. You know, nobody wants to get those wonderful letters indicating that the network was used to download illegal content or pirated content. So those are some of the different things. In keeping the network safe, you want to make sure that you're protecting it against different malicious content, whether it be viruses or Trojans or malware that's designed to steal data and information from the users on the network or even from the corporate infrastructure that's on the network as well. And then finally, network admins struggle to make sure that the network performance is at a level that business as well as organizational goals are actually able to be transacted and that they take higher priority than normal, just user-based traffic, whether they be surfing or downloading other types of content that may not be business related. And of course, as you can see, a firewall just is no longer enough. There's a lot of distractions and temptations out there. You can see a list here of several different things, whether it be YouTube or Netflix. Also, there's a lot of traps that even well-intentioned users fall into, whether, you know, if they're trying to download content like screensavers or even different antivirus protections. They think they might be downloading a good one, when in actual fact, some of those are designed to actually be malware themselves. And they take advantage of users, and it's socially engineered so that users don't realize that what they're doing. And then, of course, we've got the typical spoofing and phishing sites where they're trying to get access credentials to ways where they can more financially hurt you, whether that be credit card websites or PayPal. And even when people enter URLs incorrectly, there's a lot of what's called URL squatting. It's been around for a long time. And previously, Craigslist had a URL squatter that if you typed in Craigslist.com, it took you to a porn site. So that's been fixed, but that's still an example of things where users are being bombarded by people that are out to get them to go to websites that they shouldn't be going to, or to steal information from them, whether it be corporate or personal information. So there's a lot of things to make sure you protect yourself against. On the network as well, for performance, you've got everything from YouTube and downloading content from there, as well as BitTorrent and other websites designed for you to download peer-to-peer content that may be illegal in nature or that may be infected, and you might have exposure to content that's going to hurt your network as well. So what we'll kind of cover off now is some of the things that Untangle does on the web filtering that we have. Our web filter, we kind of consider to be a supercharged web filter when you compare it to others. We'll show you a comparison between us and other vendors out there in a minute. But what Untangle's web filter does is it finds new web pages as they come online, and it actually has a customer-driven distributed intelligence architecture, and I've got a couple of slides that talk a little bit about what that means. In addition to identification of content within seconds when the actual sites are visited. I have actually experienced a time where I blocked content and or I've gone to content that hadn't been categorized, but as I went from one page to the next, then the website was actually blocked on the fly. So you can see that that actually is very dynamic in that regard as well. And then also it's a very fresh database. We've got over 450 million URLs, and that's across 141 categories. And we have 99.9% coverage over the top, for the top 1 million most popular websites out there. And so that's definitely a big plus. As far as the guts behind our web filter, we have web analysts that actually we work with. There are 70-plus web analysts that are multilingual. They have 12-plus language competencies across the board for those guys. They're also very highly trained web analysts, and they do quality assurance checks on accuracy as well as extensive training. And in addition to those web analysts, the auto-categorization of the web content, about 90% of the time, sites are auto-categorized into the correct category of content. And then the remaining time is actually reviewed by humans. As far as the auto-categorization content goes, you can see here that it will go through and categorize against the database that sits in the cloud, and it has a little probability threshold. And if the probability of that URL being categorized in the database is high, then, or if it's yes, then it will actually categorize it against that automatically. And then also, if the answer is no, then it's sent off to the humans to actually categorize as that actually takes place. These are some of the categories that we are able to stop, and we're talking anything from adware to anonymizers. You know, when people are trying to go to sites that try to, that are called proxy sites, to illegal drugs or content that is pornographic in nature, down to even social networking. So there's quite a few different things that Untangle does to try and help you control what content your users can get to. Comparing Untangle to different web filters and competitors that we have in the marketplace, you can see here, I personally have done this. This is my own comparison that I've done. And you can see that I've sourced this information from different websites or even made phone calls to different competitors like Blue Coat and Barracuda to get information that they didn't readily publish on their websites. And you can see Untangle's at 450 million URLs, over 200 languages supported. We categorize real-time on the fly. There's no additional cost to do that with Untangle because it's included in our packages. And the miscategorization's update time frame was within 24 hours. So if something's miscategorized, we can easily get that corrected. And then also it's human reviewed and edited by the web analyst that we talked about previously. You'll notice some of the other popular competitors and just how much more the Untangle actually is doing than they are from the content filtering standpoint. And some of you that may be on the call that are using some of these other competitors, certainly feel free to download us and try us out and compare it to your existing solution. I think you'll find that we do quite a bit better than a lot of these other providers. Some of the other enhanced features that Untangle offers in order to be able to help you with content online, we have an application control module that's part of our standard package. That does quite a good job of helping control Facebook games and BitTorrent, as well as identifying other, many other protocols and applications out there. You can see we have 766 applications that are included and over 590 traffic types that are actually identified. And then you can use the web filter and the application control module in concert with our bandwidth control module. So you can really take the identification that's happening with Untangle, and if you want to allow that kind of content, then you can actually use our bandwidth control to make it so that that content doesn't take over your network in general. And you can prioritize or deprioritize according to your needs and your network bandwidth that you have. You also have the ability to give different user groups the ability to use certain things as well as different bandwidth rights. So if you want to make sure that management can do what they need to do without a lot of intervention or deprioritization, then you can do that. And my last, the favorite one I have at the bottom there is punish unauthorized network usage access. We actually have a penalty box in our bandwidth control module, which I can briefly show you, but a lot of what we want to talk about today is on the web filtering front. As far as jumping into an actual demonstration of Untangle, Untangle is typically installed as a bridge, a transparent bridge between an existing router firewall, as you can see here, and the next network switch on a network. And we also, for example, if you have another competitive product in there that's acting as the router firewall, when that product becomes obsolete or if it's not suiting your needs, then you can actually replace that with Untangle as the router firewall as you need to. So a lot of people will install us as a bridge first and then move us up the stack to the router firewall when they are ready to do so. As far as your deployment options with Untangle, we have some complete appliances, our U-Series and our M-Series appliances. These appliances are purpose-built hardware, and it's specifically designed to be fairly plug-and-play so that when you get things up and running, it walks you through a little wizard. It also includes bundled pricing and is a really good value with the hardware and software bundled together. We also offer some extended warranties on that product, and I'll show you on the next slide what those different features are, and also you can certainly refer to our website. But one of the biggest things is that we guarantee our hardware to work. That's part of what we have done when we purpose-built that stuff. And also we're currently shipping in the United States, in Canada, and the European Union. If you're outside of those locations, then what you can do is ship to a freight forwarder, and then we encourage you to buy a cold spare unit so that in the event that there is a warranty issue that you can have the unit shipped back to us, then you won't be out of luck or down until the other unit is fixed. The other option for you, of course, and this had been our bread and butter for a long, long time here at Untangle, is the software subscription. And you can actually download the software, burn it onto a CD, and then you can boot that up to your machine, and it allows you to basically run it on generally available hardware. As long as that hardware will run Linux Debian, it should run Untangle. And there's also certainly other options for you. So if you want to buy directly from Untangle, you can do that. If you want to buy from our reseller partners, we have a lot of those around the world, and you can get locally supported hardware that they provide. And so you've got quite a few different options. As far as the appliances that Untangle offers, you can see we have a U10, which is recommended for up to 10 users, U50 for up to 50 users, U150 for up to 150 users, and so on. You can see that the naming nomenclature follows suit with that. In addition to the fact that you would want to do the same thing if you're going to be sourcing your own hardware as far as scaling goes. And we have some resources on our website as well to show you that. Let's jump over to the actual demonstration of the product. What I've got here is an Untangle interface already spun up. I've logged into it locally on the network. You can see with the Untangle admin interface, we have a virtual server rack. And that virtual server rack is fairly easy to understand for those that are in the networking world. When you have different servers, And each of them have a settings button and a help button. You can see different network statistics by hovering your mouse over your transmit and receive speeds, even your session counts, and then also whether you have how many processors Untangle is recognizing for the hardware that you're using, how long the uptime has been, and then your load averages, as well as you can see your memory usage and your swap file usage as well. And lastly, your hard drive information about your disk space and your reads and writes. So there's quite a few different things on the rack. Again, we want to focus mainly on web filter. But before we get there, I want to show you the fact that you can actually create more than one rack that applies to a different set of users. So you come to our policy manager here, and policy manager, you can create additional server racks inside the Untangle interface so that you have the ability to have different policies apply to those users. Now, I've actually got a default rack and I've got a student rack on this network. And what I've done is I've created different target rules when those racks will apply. This one is specifically for when it's time for my children to get ready for church. I turn off the web filter and all web content from noon till we get home from church. If you were in a business, you could do the same thing. If you wanted to allow certain content from noon to 1 or noon to 2, then you could actually have a different rack apply. In the case of a home environment, I have this set up so that at midnight, it will actually block all content for the specific IP addresses I've set. I have other options as well where I could, if I wanted to, use a username. I could do a client host name. I can do it based on anything from a user group that's set up with our directory connector. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And we also have a captive portal. So if you wanted to have that sync up, then you're able to do that. So you can create different racks with different setups. And you'll see here that all you have to do in order to set up another rack after you've done the initial rules and made the rack is come to the other rack. Now, obviously, it looks slightly different because I haven't set up the virus blocker light, the spyware blocker, all these other things in this other rack because it's already getting its settings from the parent rack or from the default rack. So as you can see, I can create a relationship between those racks. And so that way, when I'm blocking a lot of these different things, I don't have to actually block everything, only the things that I want to block in addition to the default rack. Or in the case of opening up things, you can do that also. So anything that's got a grayed out is already going to be referred to on the default rack because it's inheriting those settings already. Now, the difference between that and the bottom half is these are all unilateral services. So this applies to all the users on the network. That would be reports, policy manager, and directory connector. And while we're here, let's just jump into what directory connector does. Untangle has the ability to sync up with an Active Directory domain controller. And you can actually have it pull the names of your AD users into a list here that you would then manage. You can also have Untangle basically identify those users when they log on to the network through a little Active Directory logon script. So you take this little logon script here and you install it on your domain controller, and that little Visual Basic script will run when they actually log into their Active Directory credentials. And that will identify them to Untangle. Hi, I'm so-and-so, this is my IP, and this is my username, as well as the user group. Now, if you don't have machines that are authenticated on the domain, maybe they're laptops or iPads or something like that that's brought in, then you have another option. We also have the ability to sync up with a Radius server. So if you're doing something other than Active Directory, then you can use the Radius configuration. Now, the way you can do it is through our captive portal. And we have captive portal available on the default rack, is what I've got that installed there and configured. The captive portal, what that'll allow you to do is it'll allow you to identify who the user is based upon them being required to log in. So if you come to the captive page, and I believe this module is turned on. Yep. If I want to interrupt them when they get online, then I can actually have this page show up, and it can require them to do anything from just checking a box to say that they agree to the terms and conditions that I've listed. And again, I don't have any terms and conditions listed. Or I can actually have them use their Active Directory credentials to identify themselves. Even if they're on a Windows, a Mac machine, an iPad, or an Android device, you can have them, if they're connecting to the network that you guys are managing and controlling, you can actually make them log in before they're able to gain access. So that's fairly helpful when you're trying to control what people can and can't do. If you change it to basic login, you'll see that there's the username and password there. And again, you can type in anything you want here. If you want to put your full acceptable use policy, you can do that. If you want to redirect them to your company's website, say you're at a Starbucks and you're the owner, you can redirect them to your local Starbucks page after they've logged in. So you get some free advertising that way. There's quite a few different options. And so if you go to the top of the rack here, we'll talk a little bit more about the web filter in and of itself. You've got some different sessions you can see here, and we can click on these and it'll give us options to look at traffic as we want to. And it'll show us, we can add different columns, information, based on what we want to see as it goes through. And so you can actually customize what counters you have, and you can also even customize these statistics here. If you want to put specific things in, then you can put that in there. Under the settings of the web filter, we have the ability to take a look at the category database, or the categories that we have, and you can decide whether those categories are blocked or flagged. Typically, flagging means it's actually going to log as a violation, and then you wouldn't typically want to block something and not flag it, but you can if you want. So you can see there's quite a few different things in here. Most of my settings are set up by default. Not all of them, of course, but there's quite a few different things you can do. Now, we have some people that are using our free web filter, and if you have that, you're not able to block things like social networking or things that are going over HTTPS. So what you can do is set up your categories, what you want to block here, and if we wanted to block social networking, then you would just click that, and you'd come back here and make sure that categorize HTTPS traffic by IP address is checked, as well as by server name indication. So if they're on a more modern browser, it will actually categorize that as well, even if it's HTTPS against the database that Untangle uses. If you want to block specific websites, then you can come over to here, and you can block CNN. You can see I just put don't like the news. If you want to put a block in for all traffic, you can actually just put in an asterisk, and that'll block everything, whatever's being requested. So there's different options that you have in this portion of the web filter on the site page. You have also the ability to block by file type. So if you have a specific file extension that you want to block, then you can actually use the ones we have here, or you can actually add one if you wanted. Certainly you don't want to overblock, because if you did, then you might have an issue there. But you can always talk to our support team and have them work with you on that. MIME types is a little bit more granular than just file types. So if you have a specific MIME that you're working with, you can see here we have about 6 pages of different MIMEs that you can block and flag. And of course you can go in if you want to see exactly what any of these are, and you can actually take a look at it. We also have the ability to enforce safe search on popular search engines like Google and Bing. And then also you can block IP address lookups. So maybe the host thinks they're smart and they want to get around your content filtering by just typing the IP address. Then you can actually have it categorize those against that database too. If you're a school, for example, or maybe a nonprofit or educational institution, you can use YouTube for Schools. So you would sign up with them and enter your identifier there. And then what that would do is to all of the YouTube requests that are sent, it would actually apply your YouTube identifier so that the profile you set up with the YouTube for School guys actually gets applied. And that's fairly helpful as well. You got several options here on blocking. You can do none, so you don't give them an option to bypass it. You can do temporary, which is the one I have. And you can require them to enter a password, and you can decide whether that's the administrator password for Untangle or whether it's a custom password that you create. Now, the value in having a custom password is you can have different passwords that apply to different sets of users for bypass needs. So maybe your management team knows what the password is to bypass for users on their specific rack, whereas the actual ones that the rack that the management has maybe has a different bypass password, so that only those people that are authorized by the senior level management are able to bypass it that way. You have also the option to permanently and globally bypass something. So if you wanted to unblock something, it'll add it to the pass list that we have, and I'll show you that in a second. That's typically not recommended. On a temporary bypass, I believe the default on that is 60 minutes, and a support team can help you if you need to change that to something else. But it allows you to bypass that particular category or that particular website for that amount of time. And then if you need to adjust that again, you can talk to them. One of the cool features that I like about Untangle is that each section of the actual administrative interface has got a help button. So if you click on the help button, it's going to take you over to the wiki or online manual that we have that gives you more explanation about things. You want to understand a little bit more about categories or about categorizing HTTPS traffic by IP address. You can also see some other examples, but it's all contextual based. So depending on what you're looking at, that's where it's going to take you. So if we wanted to click on the past list, you can see you can have certain sites that are passed here. You can add them by domain. Say maybe we want to add CNN back in. We can put that asterisk so that it will be a wildcard. Or maybe we can let all content across that has CNN in it. So there's several different options for you. And certainly we're here to help. We want to make it so that your experience is good with Untangle. You can also, maybe the CEO has a static IP address and you maybe don't want to block them at all. You can actually add them to a pass list so that they're not filtered at all, or a particular user. Then you can do that. So there's quite a few different options that you have on the web filter itself. And in addition to that, we have our application control module we talked about briefly. I'm just going to click into that real quick because that also is part of a good strategy to be able to block and stop content that you want to have blocked on your network. And there's all these different application protocols that we talked about in the previous slides, and you have the ability to block them or flag them. But in application control, we have an additional feature called tar pitting. And what tar pitting does is it allows you to have the content think that it's connected, so that the user thinks they're connected to the server, and the server thinks it's connected, but it makes it so that no data is actually transmitted at all. So if you're having trouble blocking something like BitTorrent that port hops a lot, then you can actually tar pit it, and so it'll think that it's connected, but it won't take any corrective action against trying to get around the filtering because it doesn't think there's a problem. So that's kind of what tar pitting is for, and that's fairly helpful. Got a lot of different categories listed, a lot of different application protocols. If you're blocking Facebook, or if you want to block any of the different Facebook apps that are out there. There's also quite a few different things under the Google properties. And again, one of the things that's important to point out on the application control module is a lot of this stuff, it takes a lot of updating. And so, you know, sometimes we might have to have you work with a support team. If you run it across a category or to a protocol that's having an issue, they'll be more than happy to let you know, hey, here's the current workaround for that if there's some issue where something's not working. So please let us know. We want to make sure that that gets updated as well. But there's a lot of different things that you can do. A couple things of note, though, on the categories for our application control module. We've got the category listed here, but we've also got some scores that might help you. There's a productivity score, so that the higher the number in the productivity score, the more productive that application is actually deemed. The lower the number, obviously, then the less productive it is deemed. And then, of course, you have the risk score. So the lower number in the risk means the less risky it is. The higher the number, the more risky that behavior or that application is. And we'll go down to something like BitTorrent, for example. So you can see it gets a productivity number of about a 1, so it's not very productive, but it gets a nice high risk score because a lot of times in file sharing, a lot of times people can expose the network to illicit content or even malicious content that might contain viruses or malware that might affect other users. So there's certainly things to consider when you're actually trying to keep things in check. Now, the bandwidth control, working in concert with web filter and application control, you can, once you've identified the traffic, you can use some different rules that we have, like a penalty box, like I mentioned. So maybe you want to allow them to go to Facebook, but you don't want to allow them to download more than a certain amount. You can assign them a quota. Or if you want to penalize them if they're going to Facebook during work hours, then you can put them in a penalty box, and it'll actually limit their ability to surf for work-related reasons. So you kind of allow people to hurt themselves if they go to content that you don't deem as appropriate, in addition to being able to block it. It just depends on your level of trust as well as your level of flexibility that you want to have in your acceptable use policy for the different users that you have out there. And so we encourage you to take a look at these different rule sets. And you can see when you're setting different priorities what you can do as far as the quality of service. We have 7 different priorities from very high all the way down to limited severely. And there's quite a few different things you can do. As far as quotas, if you want to understand a little bit more about what those are, then you can actually read up here. Some of the priorities in the event log, you can see what that is all about. There's quite a few different things, and certainly it can be overwhelming. We want to help you as best we possibly can at Untangle. In addition to the fact that, if you need help from a reseller, you can go to our Find a Partner page and find a local reseller. And again, this is for worldwide. It just defaults to the United States because that's where we are. So if you need help, we want to make sure that you understand how to get that help. There's also some other resources on our website on how to block a website. You go down to the very bottom. Maybe you're using our Lite product, our Lite web filter, and you want to understand the difference between it and our pay-for web filter, the one that we're showcasing today. You can see kind of a generalized list here. The web filter that we offer that's pay-for is quite a bit more robust than our free one. So there's lots of different options for you when using Untangle. As far as how to block a website, I think we've pretty well thoroughly covered that off today. I'm not sure if we have any questions that we want to get answered online.
We have a lot coming through, but we're answering them on a need-to-know basis, so I think we're okay.
Fantastic. Okay. Let me get this set up here. So basically, really, I don't think there's much left for you to do other than to either contact us if you need additional help, or you can go to this link on our website, and you can actually get the instructions step-by-step on how to download the ISO, turn it to a CD if you want to try it on your own hardware, or even to purchase an appliance from Untangle. And we certainly appreciate your attendance today and hope that the questions that you have, we're able to get those answered to your liking as well as sufficiently for you. And certainly if we're, again, not able to get to them on this call and this webinar, we certainly encourage you to go and send us an email at sales@untangle.com, and we'll make sure we get those answered for you. We appreciate your time today. I know that's been a little bit of a whirlwind, and hopefully we covered off the information you were looking to learn today about Untangle and how we compare to our competitive products out there, and certainly how we can help you to get control of your network and make sure your users are doing what you want them to do. Appreciate your time, and without further ado, we'll go ahead and sign off today. Thanks for your time.